Hey everybody, how's it going? And thank you to all my subscribers for subscribing to my channel. I hope that you guys are able to make use of the information that I share, because that's all I do. When I do my own research, when I teach myself and when I teach my daughter, I like to share some of that information. I don't share everything though. One of the reasons why I don't share everything is because the information that I've learned could be used by various people to cause harm to others, even to themselves mostly. So that information I don't share. But there's other information that I do share. And in this video, I'm going to be sharing some more information. I said almost a year ago that I wanted to post a video and share some info with you guys about the 2 seeds that's mentioned in the scriptures. I haven't posted that video because I have been involved in some other projects, and it takes a lot of time to do the research that's necessary, or I should say to compile the research that I've already studied. So that's why I decided to do this video first, which will be a lead up to the 2 seeds video. In this video, as you can see by the title, I'm going to be talking to you about trees, but not just any kind of tree. I'm going to be talking to you about DNA, and about how it ties into the tree of the knowledge of good and bad that's mentioned in the book of Genesis chapter 2. That particular tree that the Most High told the first male and female to not eat from, because that tree in question was not a literal tree. It was actually an angel. And I'm going to show that in this video, that the tree in question was not a literal tree. Yeah, there were trees in the garden, food trees, but this particular tree was actually an angel. I'm going to be talking to you about what they consider the esoteric, things that are hidden. Because, of course, the Most High said during this time period, he would begin to expose the wicked, all the things they've hidden, because he said that the pen of the scribes was in vain. All the stuff they've hid and everything, he said it was vanity, because he was still going to expose it. And that's why I want to share this information with you, because you'll be able to research this yourself, get your own research materials. Wherever you want to go and research it, you'll be able to dig it up and see for yourself that it's true. I think it's important for us to understand one thing about the scriptures before I tell you anything else. One, which you obviously already can see, you have a translation, but the original language was not English. It was not German. It was not Greek. They were translated into those languages by the very ones who invaded our territories, our people's territories. But the original language was Shemitic. That's imperative if you ever hope to have an understanding of what you're reading, because you will not be able to read these letters that were written by our forefathers at different times by different people. You won't be able to read them in English and actually understand what you're reading. You will forever remain in the dark. If you've noticed on my header, I placed a new header up there because at first there was no header there on my YouTube channel, and right in the center is an olive tree. And you might wonder, why is that up there? What does that mean? You probably see my avatar where I'm wearing a set-apart garment. It has the border of blue, but it also has the fringes. And on top, right in the center, there's an artist's rendition of a tree. And you no doubt see the double helix there. I put that there for a reason. That is an example of the esoteric. Something that is, some would say, hidden. But I'm going to read a few definitions of the word esoteric. Okay, because most of the times when we hear the word esoteric, we associate it with maybe demonism. But the word esoteric actually has nothing to do with demonism. It simply means something that's hidden, basically. But let's take a look at some of the definitions here before we get into the meat. Okay. And one definition that is given by thefreedictionary.com is intended for or understood by only a particular group. Okay. Mysterious. You can see the synonym at the definition for mysterious. Another definition is of or relating to that which is known by a restricted number of people. Not publicly disclosed or confidential. Some of the other definitions they give for esoteric is not openly admitted. This is what I like to refer to as lying by omission. When people give you half-truths, right? And then the rest is just lies. I call that lying by omission. Now, some of the other definitions they give for esoteric include these adjectives: private, secret, mystical, hidden. And that's the word I want to focus on, hidden. Because when our enemies translated our forefathers' letters, they saw the truth of what was written. They knew the information was about them, themselves, our enemies, and they did not want anyone to know that what that information was really talking about, because basically it exposed them for what they are and what they do. So let's take a look at Genesis chapter 2, verses 16 and 17. And we're going to be focusing on the part where the Most High told the first male and female that they could not eat from the tree of the knowledge of good and bad. We want to focus on the main point of the chapter. And we know the main point of the chapter is not just disobedience, but the focus are trees. Okay, when we hear the word garden, we know, obviously we think about trees. We know about trees. We see them every day. So let's go to our Lexis, and we're going to find the information about trees. The first thing to remember is that our language, our Shemitic languages, of course, they don't use vowels. Vowel pointings were added. They were added by scribes who are not of our people. So we're going to go to the lexicon, and we're going to type in tree. And you can use any lexicon you wish. You don't have to use the one I'm using. I use different types of lexicons, and I'll post a link to one that I use often. We're going to type in tree, but we're going to omit the vowel pointings. We're not going to put the EE. And what you're going to see is that just typing in TR, okay, will give you the definition. Because like I said, we're not dealing with English. We are going to be looking at the Shemitic languages. So right here, you're going to see that just typing in TR, you're going to get a definition. There are a whole lot of definitions in the list, and we're not going to cover all of those. I'm not going to cover all of them because I don't want the video to be too long. I'm just going to find tree. We can see here by typing in TR that it means a summit of a tree or mountain, or the top of a summit or tree or mountain. And one of the reasons I decided to include this word from the list is because of the suffix, that root that's there, IYR, which is ear. Of course, in English, they would say ire, but that's going to show up again, and it's going to be really important. So just remember the suffix of this word, which is amir, IYR, because we're going to see it again. It also means in the sense of self-exaltation, to exalt thyself, to boast. Now let's take a look at another meaning. Here we have etz and etzah. And the reason I'm showing you this is because I just want you to see that even if you remove the vowel pointings and just type in TR, you still get the definition for tree. And here it is right here. It means a tree, or wood, or timber. If you take the vowel pointings off, it doesn't change the definition. I just want to show you that. So you can't, when you're using your lexicons, for a lot of the words, you don't have to include the vowels because those vowel pointings were added later. All you have to do is use the consonants. And sometimes you won't get any results depending on how many consonants you're dealing with. So now that we know, we've established that TR, or TREE, means tree, we need to look at some other definitions of tree, because this is going to give us a whole lot of insight into what's actually going on in the garden. Remember what I said, that people will actually lie to you by omitting things. And just because they haven't literally just outright lied doesn't mean they haven't lied. Because if you need all of the truth in order to come to a true and clear understanding, and they omit some of that, then they're lying to you by omission, right? And I'm going to show you a perfect example of what I mean by taking a deeper look at the word etz. Well, let's take a look. If you read Genesis chapter 2, verses 16 and 17, you're going to see the word tree there. Now, the average person is going to get a lexicon, a Hebrew lexicon, and they're going to go, let's see what tree means, because it could mean something else. And when they go to the lexicon, and they cross-reference that word using the Strong's or whichever lexicon they choose to use, or whichever concordance, they're going to see ets. And it's just going to say a tree, timber, stock, plank, whatever. Same thing you see up there. However, the average person is going to fail to notice that they're playing around with the language rules for the Shemitic dialect. One, I gave you a clue earlier when we were talking about the vowel pointings. There are no vowels in the Shemitic language. They're consonants. The vowel pointings were added. So if we drop that E from the word ets, you're going to get your consonant. And it won't be TS, because there's another rule that they're playing around with here. In the Shemitic languages, when you see a T and an S together, the sound that's produced from that is not tss, like a hiss, but it's a Z sound. So whenever you see the T and S together, it represents the Z. And we're going to go to the lexicon and get the proof. Alright, so we're here in the lexicon and we're going to type in the letter Z. And we're going to let our list load. And one of the words here that I'm going to show you is, it looks like ebets. But of course, when the T and S are together, the sound is actually Z. In Europe they would say Z. But the sound is a Z sound. So it would be ebez. Okay? And I'm going to show you here. You can see it is also synonymous with the letter A, or abez. So when you see the T and S together, it is actually a Z. The next word is elbazon, and some would say lebazon. But just keep in mind that when you see the T and S together, it's a Z sound, as you can see right here. You see the Z. So now that we know that basic language rule for pronunciation in the Shemitic dialects, when you look up tree and you go to the lexicon, it says, hey, it's just a tree, and this is how you spell it, E-T-S, right? Ets. Now you know that the T-S is a Z, and you drop the vowel because they don't use vowels in the Shemitic language, and you're left with a Z. That's what you get. Interesting enough, when we look up Z, we get the suffix for Azazel. And if you know who Azazel is, then you know a lot. So, if Azazel is rooted in Etz or Z, that's telling you a whole lot about that tree they don't want you to know, and they never expected you to be able to search or dig deep enough to find out. And here's one more as a great example. The word here looks like Ezel, E-Z-E-L. And remember, if you remove that Z and put the T and S there, you get Etzel. Okay? An L, that's an angel. So, if you put E-T-S in front, and they're telling you that Etz means tree, and the T-S is actually pronounced with a Z, this says Azel, departure. Well, if you've read in Leviticus about the Azazel or Kazazel, goat, and if you know about the angel named Azazel, one of the fallen, then you already know who that tree is in the garden. But we're going to keep digging just to make sure. I also included a screen capture from the book of Enoch, and I highlighted some information about Azazel, and you can read that if you like. This is in the first book of Enoch. It's in the Apocrypha Pseudepigrapha. And you can read the information in there about the angels who basically, made the decision to come down to earth and commit all types of crimes, basically. But Azazel, if you keep on studying and if you keep researching, you're going to start finding out a lot about Azazel. And I'm going to actually do a video on Azazel. Because I think the information is really important. I think it's some really good information to include that you can use in your research. And that's why I went on ahead and included it. Now, One of the other words that I showed you was amir. That was one of the definitions given for tree. And the reason I selected that word from the list is because of its suffix, the root, IYR, ear. Now let's take a look at that right quick. And then we're going to go ahead and discuss information about DNA. We're going to be talking about Jacob's ladder. And what you'll realize is that the dream vision of Jacob's ladder is actually our DNA. And that has everything to do with the symbolism, or their symbolism, of the serpent in the tree. They don't tell you exactly what the serpent in the tree actually means. They keep that hidden. So we're going to uncover that. So let's go ahead and look at Amir, and then we're going to look at the other information. Now, around about the beginning of the video, well, not the beginning, towards the middle, we were looking at some of the meanings or some of the Shemitic words for tree. And the first word that we saw was Amir. And I suggested that you remember that suffix IYR because it's also a root. And this is the reason I wanted you to remember that suffix. Because when you see what that root word actually means, let's take a look and let's find out what ear, IYR, means. Now in English they will pronounce it ire. So again, we're going to go to our lexis and we're going to type in the word angel this time. And you see right here, the word is ear, IYR. Okay? It is an Aramaic root word that corresponds to ur. It means a watcher angel. That's why I wanted you guys to pay close attention to that suffix, which is a root, because I said we're going to see that again. Now we could see just by looking at just a little bit that we just covered that the tree that was in the garden was more than a tree, it's an angel. But we're still going to double check, okay? This is how I do my research, and we're going to look at some other players in the garden. Another one was a serpent. Now they tell you guys it was a serpent. However, that's the esoteric, right? That's the hidden, the symbolic. The word serpent comes from the word seraph. Now let's take a look at what a seraph is. So in our Shemitic language, the word for serpent is saraph, and it's not the only word, but this is the one we're just going to focus on from the list. They actually have Leviathan up here in the list as well, but I'm just going to focus on seraph. And if you look down here at number 2a, it says that a seraph is a majestic being with 6 wings. They have human hands or voices, and they serve in attendance upon the Most High. So this is an angelic class, a class of angels. Okay, and we were looking at the information about the tree. Now we're looking at the information about the serpent, and we're digging through the layers and layers, and we're getting to the true meaning of what is actually going on in Genesis and who's involved. Now in the scriptures, when the Most High describes the first angel who rebelled, he said that he walked amidst the fiery stones, that particular angel. So looking here, it says a seraph, a fiery serpent, or fiery seraph. So this gives us a little insight into what element those particular angels deal with. And it also explains why the Most High sees it fit to use fire to punish them. But then you would have to ask the question, okay, why is he punishing them? Well, what they tell you happened in the Garden of Eden is not what really happened. There was no eating of a fruit from a tree. There was something else involved, and I won't go into that in this video. But the actions that took place, and later on with angels coming down to earth and mating with human females, involved reproducing offspring whose DNA was genetically mixed. So a mixing of seed occurred. European scientists have already declared many times that their DNA is a little different from those individuals who come from the African continent. Should be asking why. So that mixing of angels with certain humans on this planet resulted in them genetically changing or altering the DNA of the offspring that resulted from that mixing. This is why the double helix, the DNA, is involved, and why they have that serpent coiling around the tree, because that is the form of the double helix. Which brings us to Jacob's dream sequence about the Jacob's ladder. Now in English, the Gentiles translated as a ladder, but in our Shemitic language, it can be translated as a staircase. And Jacob said that he saw angels walking on this curious staircase back and forth between heaven and earth. Now, if you guys know anything about our people, about our forefathers, and the punishment the Most High said he would bring because they disregarded his rules for living on the planet, he said that he would assign taskmasters or shepherds or rulers. A lot of people don't realize that these are angels. Now, of course, you guys know about the 70 weeks of years and the prophecy. And we've been away from our homeland for actually a few thousand years now. The Gentiles, the whites, have ruled this planet for quite some time. Now, the problem is that the angels who would rule for that set amount of time we would be away, they went way too far. And this coincides with the prophecies in Jeremiah and the book of Ezekiel about the rule of the wicked shepherds. Those are actually angels. And in the prophecy in Genesis, we have information about how even after the flood, the descendants of the angels started showing up on the planet again. And of course, then you have to ask the question, okay, we thought they were destroyed in the flood. Well, yeah, that's because the next angel who came, who was given authority, did the exact same thing. And unfortunately, they each get a certain amount of time to rule, and depending on just how egregious or how gross their rulership is, the Most High would actually cut it short. So their habit, these group of angels, of course, I mean, we know about the rebellion that took place in heaven, but what they don't tell you in the churches is that the rebellion was due to take place throughout the generations. It didn't happen overnight. It has happened through a period of generations. And of course, each angel that comes, they share certain information with humans, and they typically share information they're not supposed to, which is why you end up with these different civilizations. They have the same record about their interactions with gods or elves or whatever you want to call them. Well, these are the angels who were involved. And it was no different with us. One of the reasons why our enemies dealt such an unholy, unnatural hand against us was because it involved an angel. The Most High said these angels went too far. Because remember when our people were coming out of Egypt, and the Most High, he told Moshe, he said, I'm going to send one of my angels to go ahead of you, and if you don't listen to him or obey him, he will not show you mercy. So the Most High already knew the angel was going to use discipline. The unfortunate part is that many of those angels that went far beyond what they knew was allowed. And one of the things that many of them did was to mate with human females, reproduce their own offspring, and of course, they elevated their children above the natural descendants of this planet, which is the result of wicked Gentile rule over the planet, which is what you're experiencing now. Okay, last but not least, I want to share some information with you guys about this Christmas tree. You guys know Christmas, that other demon day, is coming up, just like it does every year. But most people don't realize, when I say most, I mean just your average person. They don't realize the symbolism behind the Christmas tree. Now that we know that in our Shemitic language, trees are used to symbolically represent humans and angels. Now, with the Christmas tree, you guys are used to seeing the decorations, because even if you don't celebrate Christmas, we don't here. You go into a store, in some stores you see that tree and the twine is wrapped around it. Of course, it's wrapped around it in the form of the double helix. Now those balls that they hang on there, that has to do with the DNA acids. That's actually how they look when you look at the strand of DNA under a microscope. That's how it looks, those little balls. Now of course on the Christmas tree they have one or two things at the top. They either have a star or they have an angel. That's because in the Aramaic language the word star means angel. And of course that tree represents that angel genetically changing, genetically corrupting humans. That's what it represents. Now the gifts that they put under it, you know that those people who brought us here, brought our forefathers here, spoke the English language. And of course they weren't the only ones, because the Dutch were involved, the French, the Spanish, the Germans, which is very interesting to note because the English language is a Germanic dialect. You're dealing with the sons of Gomer here. Of course they are genetically changed. They're genetically corrupted individuals. But in the German language, the word gift means poison. Now, in our prophecies many times, they refer to those angels, the seraph class, as serpents. And we know the bite of a serpent, you know, depending on which one, especially like vipers or pit vipers, is poisonous. So this tree right here, the tree symbolically represents the genetic corruption of humans by poisoning their DNA with angel DNA. Now, this is the problem. Those Gentiles who brought us here, they were supposed to mix with us. Yes, some of them raped a handful of the females they brought here. But for the most part, they didn't mix with them. And that's because the Most High put it into them to keep us segregated. And then, of course, up until a certain point, we were kept separate from them. We even had our own separate restrooms, separate water fountains, separate everything. And that was great for us. Now, when they started passing these laws to enforce whites to mix us into their societies, of course those whites still rebelled. They were like, no, I don't want to mix with them. And that's because that's what the Most High put into them. Of course, our people didn't recognize that. And even today, they're starting this whole mix thing that a lot of black people are just walking around in a stupefied haze, and they're not paying attention to what's going on. In the book of Daniel, yes, I know I mentioned this before in a few other of my videos about the prophecy, Daniel chapter 2, verse 43, but I'm going to read it again. And whereas thou sawest iron mixed with miry clay, they shall mingle themselves with the seed of men, but they shall not stick one to another, even as iron is not mixed with clay. So, the first part of the prophecy, thou sawest iron mixed with miry clay. This says here, you saw iron mixed with clay. In other words, you saw a genetically mixed human who was part angel, part flesh. That's the iron mixed with clay. Then he said that genetically corrupted individual or individuals will mix themselves with the remnant seed of Adam. But the Most High said we're still not going to get together. We're still not going to get along, in other words, because it's not meant for us to get along like that. One reason is because this iron is trying to exercise undue, unnatural control over humans. The Most High said that humans are soft clay. In other words, we have a type of freedom that we don't like trampled on. And that's why the Most High said the two will not stick together. Okay? The iron and the clay, he said the two will not stick together. And that involves a part of us not getting along, because it is not meant for us to. And as for those whites, those Europeans, those Spaniards, those Mexicans, those mixed out people, stay away from them. Do not mix with them. Do not reproduce their corrupt seed. The only reason they're trying to bamboozle you into mixing with some mixed out individuals, which include Mexicans, is because they want to use them as the leaven to genetically destroy you, just as they themselves are genetically destroyed. Stay away from them. They can claim to be of our people all day long, but they look nothing like us, and that's for a reason. And so I hope that the information in this video is able to help you with your research. Now, there are some videos coming up that I'm going to post. Of course, the 2 seeds, I'm going to post that video, I would say in about 2 more weeks, in about 14 days. And then I have a couple of more videos that I'm going to post, more than likely even before that one. So look for those, and I hope this information helped. I'll talk to you soon.